Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Yes, indeed, in the world of podcasts, this is an outdoor radio show. It is a beacon of light. It is a beacon of hope. It is a ray of sunshine in a media world that is cluttered. Oh, I'm getting a little carried away here. Anyway, I'm so glad you're along with us. I do appreciate it. Look at that. A lot of things you could be doing right now, a lot of things you could be listening to right now. So the fact that you hear my voice means a lot to me, and I do certainly appreciate it. How was your week? Anything fun since we've last talked? You get out and do anything, any fishing, anything like that? Take advantage of the weather? I did. Went down to the river, the Tittabawassee River, a river that I'm quite familiar with, although I don't fish much at all anymore. I used to fish it out of a boat. I used to have a river boat, you know, not a river boat like a West Coast river boat, but I had a 17-foot Tuffy with a 70-horse Yamaha on the back, bow mount trolling motor. It was a perfect river boat. Oh, I used to spend a lot of time on the Saginaw River and the Tittabawassee River. The first limit of walleye I ever caught was fishing from shore on the Tittabawassee River. The season there, by the time you hear the radio show, has closed. So we wanted to get down there and take advantage of the nice weather. My son James called me up. He texted me and said, "Hey, you want to go fishing tomorrow? Just down to the river?" I'm like, "Yeah." His buddy Mike Smith came along as well. And we were throwing jigs and twister tails. I was throwing body baits and didn't really expect too much, even though the river is full of fish right now. But the water was very dirty. It was very high. It was very fast. And it was very tough to fish from shore. The only fish we got was a sucker. James caught a sucker. But you know what? It didn't really matter. We're all looking at each other, kind of smiling, going, today's one of these days it doesn't matter if you catch any fish or not. It was just nice. The only thing about it that wasn't nice, I saw my first snake of the season. I don't like snakes. I'm kind of afraid of snakes. I'm a big sissy when it comes to snakes. Even this little garter snake, and people call them gardener snakes, but they're garter snakes. You know, maybe 15 inches long, if that. And as we're walking, he's slithering away. But believe me, garter snake, I was more afraid of you than you were of me. My grandson Trent used to tease me when he's a little guy. He loves snakes. He loves to pick them up. He'd pick them up and he'd hold my face, say, "See, Grandpa, are you afraid of this?" I'm like, "Yes, Trent, I'm afraid of that." There's no rational reason to be afraid of it. I know it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to attack me. I just don't like snakes. And one of the worst experiences I ever had with snakes, and I've never seen a rattlesnake, thank God. I heard one when I was a kid rattle on a creek that we were fishing with my dad, but I never saw it. But several years ago, I was out turkey hunting in the spring, and I was hunting out of an old Ameristep blind. And the blind, when I left, because it was on the edge of a field, what I would do when I leave is I would collapse it. I would leave it staked into the ground, but I would collapse it so it was flat, just so it didn't draw attention. So I go out there in the morning. It's a really chilly, frosty morning. And I pop the blind back up. I get in there. I sit on my stool. I put my thermos down next to me. I got my bowl. Coffee's all ready to go. Okay. Just about daylight, I reached down to pick up my thermos. Because I'm thinking, good hot cup of coffee sounds really good right now. And when I reached down, I felt something. And it wasn't my thermos. And it felt cold, and it just didn't feel right. And then it moved. I screamed like a little girl, jumped up, threw the blind off over my head, and ran back several yards to let the two snakes that were in there, slither off. They had come in there because that blind had attracted heat, and it was warmer in there, and they were all cuddled up and curled up in there. And Avery, the big dumb guy, comes in there and screws up their morning. Well, listen, snakes, you screwed up my morning too. Speaking of turkeys, did you get your turkey tag yet? The drawing results were released last week. Or are you going to wait and get one over the counter? These days, it's almost, I think, more people get their tags maybe over the counter than get them on the draw. I haven't seen the numbers, but I know more people are just waiting and buy them over the counter. They say, why spend the extra, what is it, $5? I'll just get it over the counter. And if you hunt in one of the seasons and one of the parts of the state where there are always leftover tags, why not? For example, I always hunt, well, recently, ZZ, the Southern Michigan private land season, which starts like April 20th or 21st and runs right on through the end of May. It's basically a 6-week season, 5-6-week season. For me, it's wonderful. And I think the only time ZZ has ever sold out was during COVID. So yeah, you can just get that over the counter. I don't know for sure when the over-the-counter tags go on sale, but keep an eye on that. Michigan.gov/DNR, Michigan.gov/DNR. Okay, some really interesting news this week. I told you I got a call from the folks at Jay's Sporting Goods. This is just before the firearm opener. They said, Mike, we have a suppressor here for your Brenton 350 Legend. I said, I didn't know anything about that. Can I come up and pick it up? And they just laughed at me. He said, no, it's not quite that easy. So knowing I wasn't going to have it in time for gun season, I was in no great rush. But I wanted to have it in time for bear hunting this fall. Hopefully I'm going to get a tag this fall in Michigan here. And so 3.5 weeks ago, I went up to Jay's and I filled out the paperwork. I paid my $200-some federal tax stamp. I got on their kiosk. I had my picture taken. I gave them all kinds of information, and we submitted it. Now, it used to be when you applied for a suppressor, it might take a year, 14 months, maybe more. Recently, Gina Cannell of Jay's, she's the manager of the gun department of the Clare store. When I said, Gina, how long can I expect to wait? She says, they've been running about 4 to 5 months. And I thought, okay, that's okay. I'll have it in time for my Michigan bear hunt. 3 weeks from the day that I submitted my paperwork, I got an email from the ATF saying the status of your application has been changed to approved. My suppressor paperwork went through and was approved in 3 weeks to the day. That's like almost unheard of. Now, was it a fluke? Did I just luck out? Or is the system more efficient? I doubt that, but 3 weeks. So I need to get up there. I need to get that suppressor. But before I get too concerned about getting that suppressor on there and dialing the gun in and making sure everything's good to go, I need to get a new scope for that gun. I've got a Leupold 1x4 scope on there, and it's just not enough. I need to get like a 3x9 with a bigger objective lens for more light gathering. So that's step number one. I'll get a better scope for that. Well, I'll go up and pick up the suppressor. While I'm there, I'll probably get a scope too. Hey, next Wednesday night, the 20th, this Wednesday night, coming up the 20th, we're going to do a Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. Forward Corporation Lumberjack Restaurant. We are pretty much sold out, but I think we could sneak in a few more. If you would like to join us, the number to call, and I hate giving out numbers on the air, but it's 989-343-0892, or do a Google search for Lumberjack Restaurant West Branch. The contact number will be there. Joining us at that event, Brad Dupuis, Mr. Angler Quest, Nick DeShano of Offshore Tackle, Extreme Long Range Shooter Paul Phillips, Steve Wyndham of MUCC will be joining us as well. Going to give away some product as we always do. I've got a beautiful Rapid River knife from Chris Durson to give away. We've got some offshore products coming in with Nick. Michigan brand, Nick Grillo of Michigan brand can't make it, but he's sending me north with some jerky and a ham to give away as well. Rec Broadheads, they're going to send me some broadheads to give away. And I've got 2 Primal Vision blinds. Now, the Vision is the newer version of the Wraith that I love so much. The Vision is a different camo patterns, and it has sewn-in brush loops, so you can brush it in. So that's going to be a lot of fun. 989-343-0892. And I mentioned Paul Phillips was going to be there. Paul and I have been discussing a couple of things, and there are some pretty exciting things in the works. And if we're lucky, Paul will be able to announce next Wednesday night some very, very cool things coming up. So I hope you can join us for that event. It's at the Lumberjack Restaurant. Call for reservations. You're going to want to make your reservation probably 5:30, 6-ish. Our live stream will start at 7, as all of my Wednesday night lives do. I look forward to seeing you there. If you can't join us, please join us online. That would be great. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, Tom Andrus of the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative with great news on the quest to increase the number of rods a trolling angler can use on the Great Lakes. Then Bob Miller with some tips on hunting out of state. Second hour, Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods. What's that new building going up there? Then Paul Rogers from the DNR. The wildfire danger, the season's going to be early this year. And in hour number 3, we're talking turkey with Charlie Wiltse and, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, who is our guest chef at Wednesday Night Live. It's going to be a great show. I'm glad you're with us right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this could be your best bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and he can help you become a licensed charter captain as well. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com, for more info. John has classes across the state, different areas, just different geographic locations, different time frames, so I'm sure you can find one that fits your schedule. That's pmtcaptains.com. Speaking of big water fishing, I it's no secret, I love it. I just absolutely love it. A few years ago, I was out on Saginaw Bay, and I was out there fishing by myself, and I was running 3 rods. And I saw a charter boat come by, and they had 12, 15 rods out. And I got thinking, why is there a limit on the number of rods that a person can use? Because you're not going to hurt the fishery. The resource is protected because you have size limits and you have daily harvest limits. So what does it matter how many rods you use to catch those fish? It doesn't. There's no biological reason. So I got this wild hair to start pushing this idea. One of the things that I did, aside from promoting it here on the radio show, is I went to the MUCC convention. Now, I'm a member of MUCC. I'm a big supporter of MUCC, and they have a process where any member can bring a resolution forward. And my resolution was to increase the number of rods that a Great Lakes trolling angler could use. It was my first time at a convention. I didn't really know the system, and to be honest, I didn't do as good a job of promoting and lobbying for it as I could have, and it was shot down. And it was fine, okay. Well, now, this last year, before the MUCC convention, they had a resolution coming out in opposition of a plan to increase the number of rods a Great Lakes trolling angler could use. And I thought, well, I don't think this is a good idea. The folks at the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative didn't think it was a good idea as well. Ed Blissick and Tom Andrus were at the MUCC convention. They lobbied against this, and they were successful. The resolution failed. Now, MUCC has not come out in support of this yet, but they are no longer in opposition. Tom Andrus is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, listen, good job on this. Congrats. I wish I could have been there to see it.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning to you. Good to talk to you again.
So tell me how this whole thing went down. I said earlier in the show, you didn't hear it, but I said I felt the opposition was based on some bad information and maybe a personal agenda or two. So how did you guys address that?
Well, I tell you, the experience for us was kind of similar to yours because Ed and I are both members, and we'd never been to the state convention either. So it was kind of new to us, but we got word about a month ago about the opposition to our proposal to have 3 extra rods for a license for $26. And we had heard that some of the folks on the fisheries committee for them had put this amendment, the resolution to oppose together. So first thing we did was we sent an email to Amy and said, Amy Trotter, and said, Amy, what's going on with this? We hadn't heard anything. We were, would have liked the heads up or whatever. She immediately got on the phone with us, brought Justin Tomei on board on the phone call and said, she doesn't have a vote. She can't take any sort of stance. But what they did do was they walked us through how to do things at the convention. Each person has 2 2-minute blocks to speak. We could put materials out for people to look at. We could lobby people when we got to the convention and so forth. So that was a huge part, I think, of our success was getting that early word, and also Amy and Justin kind of giving us some information on how to make things happen there. So, but yeah, the resolution was some guys that, like you said, they didn't understand exactly what we were trying to do, and we found time and time again, if we have an opportunity to explain to people what we're trying to accomplish, people are usually for it. And some of that, the majority of the opposition was how many rods is enough rods for somebody. It's sort of like that. They had like an ethical question associated with it. And when we brought to their attention, hey, if you don't want to buy the license, if you don't want to run more rods, that's fine. You don't have to. It's completely voluntary. Some other questions that came up, what were the dollar amounts go to? And we're really looking to put it towards cormorant control because we don't have the money. We have the permits to lethally take care of cormorants. We've got 11,000 permits to do that, but we can only take out 2,000 of them because we don't have the money to put the program together. So that's one of the things we're really shooting for.
I think that's a genius move to point out the fact that this money could be and hopefully will be targeted for cormorant control. That's wonderful. So tell me, Tom, what is it exactly that you guys are pushing for? You've got a proposal out there. What exactly does it call for?
So the proposal is for an individual to be able to buy an extra license. It would be the same cost as regular license, so it would be $26. And also it would be $26 for non-residents. We have a lot of non-residents to come to Michigan and fish, so I'd like to give them an opportunity to do the same. So for this $26 on a boat in the Great Lakes, you can fish with 3 more rods. We've all been out there having a slow day, trying to figure out what depth the fish are at, what type of lure they're looking for, what action they're looking for on the lure. And sometimes if you can just add that last, we've all been sitting there, right? God, if I only could have one more out there, maybe I could figure it out. And that's kind of what we're looking for. It's based more towards the small boat guys, the 1 or 2 guys going out to be able to, if you've got 4 or 5 guys on the boat, you're not running more than 15 rods most of the time. I mean, some guys on Saginaw Bay might run a little bit more than that, but you're limited by the amount of space you have and the amount of tangles you want to deal with.
Exactly.
Right?
And yeah, it's like a self-limiting thing. The size of your boat and your experience with running multiple rods is going to end up really being the ultimate factor. Now, I want to go back. You said you would buy another license. This wouldn't allow you to take a double limit of fish, would it?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. You have the same size limits, the same bag limits as currently set up. It just allows you to use extra rods. There's no increase. There might be a slight increase on the take of the fish, but like you said, the limits are set in order to protect that resource. And if you think about walleye right now, especially in Saginaw Bay and Lake Erie, I mean, walleye, they keep on changing the regulations to try to get us to take
more fish. Yeah.
The same thing in Erie. We take 25% of our total allowable catch in Michigan waters down in Lake Erie. So 75% of our total allowable catch is left on the table every day. Who's going to be drooling about those types of words, right? Mm-hmm. Commercial guys. Mm-hmm. And that's why that's coming up on the table these days is commercial guys are saying, hey, if sports guys aren't going to take them, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic there, isn't it?
Exactly. But, again, these are sort of proposals that'll say, hey, we're doing the things that we can to make all this sort of stuff happen and give everybody else an opportunity and raise funds for the fisheries department who really needs it.
So if this goes through, I would be able to buy an additional license that would allow me to run 3 more rods. Could a buddy get on my boat and do the same thing and he could run 3 more?
If he has the license, yes, he can.
Okay. Wow, yeah, then you could get 2 guys. Yeah, you could get 2 guys to be pretty effective. Or even one guy out there. Yeah, I like this a lot. So what's next? I mean, you're still a long way from getting this done.
We are, and like we tell everybody, we're just a bunch of goofball fishermen trying to figure out a way to get stuff through the legislature, right? So we're learning as we're going, but we're getting tips as we go. One of the great things that happened was the new fisheries chief, Randy Claremont, really likes this idea also. And so he actually took this idea and he's proposing it in his proposal to the legislature for his new license restructuring that he's putting forth this year. So instead of us having to go to individuals and maybe get a person to go and lobby and all that sort of stuff, we've got our in with Randy Claremont, who's going to present this to the legislature. So once that goes through with his proposal, we go to the NRC because we don't want to have anything set up in the legislature. We don't want the legislature controlling the resource, right?
Nope, exactly.
So the only thing the legislature is going to do is set up the license that you have to go through the legislature to create a license. Once the license is created, we go to the NRC and say, this is the things we want for this license. They set the license up and away we go.
I had the DNR fisheries chief, Randy, on my boat last summer on Saginaw Bay, so I had a chance to bend his ear for a while. And one of the topics was talking about this running additional rods. And he says, Mike, just like you say, Tom, he said, I'm all in favor of it. It's not going to hurt the resource. He said, Randy said, my concern is the social repercussions. So you've got to deal with that, right? You've got people saying, well, why are you giving big Great Lakes anglers special treatment? But if you look at all of our hunting and fishing laws, there are exemptions and there are special cases almost everywhere.
Yeah, and when we originally put this together, we really wanted to include everybody, right? But when the reality comes down to it, especially shore and pier fishermen, when we went from 2 to 3 rods, the biggest uproar that came up from the public was guys on the pier and guys on shore saying, I don't want one guy taking up 80 feet of pier with all these rods, right? And I think we would be creating a problem instead of creating a good thing for those guys. And on the inland lakes, Randy's concern was the speed of which you can make changes. So in case something did happen on that lake and being able to remove pressure from it quickly, he said, he said in the Great Lakes, it's not going to be an issue whatsoever. But just in case it's a problem on the inland lakes, let's hold off on that. We're like, that's great. We want to provide solutions, not problems. So that's kind of why it went with just the Great Lakes.
Gotcha. Hang tight, Tom. There's a lot more to talk about. We're talking with Tom Andrus of the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative, glsalmon.org. That's glsalmon.org. A few more thoughts on this, additional rods, and then more coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK, that's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us, let's go to Marquette, WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by... That's the sound of my Rapid River knife opening. I just took it out of my pocket. It's there all the time. I think a knife is one of the best tools that you could... Look, you always need a knife. So why not make it a Michigan-made knife from the folks at Rapid River, handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Lifetime guarantee. You can pass it down to the next generation. If you can, check out their showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. If you can't make it up there, go to the website rapidriverknifeworks.us. That's rapidriverknifeworks.us. And Chris Durson of Rapid River has given me a very nice Rapid River knife to give away at our Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack coming up on the 20th. So if you're joining us, maybe you could be the owner of a Rapid River knife as well. Talking right now with Tom Andrus of the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative, glsalmon.org. That's glsalmon.org. Tom, what do you think? If this all goes through, are we looking at the 25 fishing season?
That's what we're shooting for, Mike. Hopefully, we're kind of in limbo. Our big deal was getting through MUCC's opposition. Now we're kind of waiting for things to go through the legislature. While we're doing that, we're spending a lot of time going and talking to angler groups. We've got 25 angler groups across all of Michigan, from the UP to every corner of the Lower Peninsula, and actually the Hoosier Coho Club in Indiana signed on too. So, but we're still looking for any support we can get. That makes it so much easier for when Randy goes through the legislature and says, okay, I got all of these angler groups behind this. It's going to make it easier for them to sign on the dotted line for us.
And again, you're not talking ice fishermen, you're not talking shore fishermen, you're not talking pier fishermen, you're not talking inland fishermen. So this is Great Lakes trolling anglers only. So let's talk for a minute here about your group, Great Lakes Salmon Initiative. What are you guys all about?
So years ago, when the bait was kind of crashing on Lake Michigan, Michigan DNR came out, and they wanted to cut predators, obviously, and the easiest one for them to cut was king salmon. So they started cutting 50%, and then 25% after that, and so forth. And king salmon is the key species that guys want to go out for. When the kings are in, the boat launches are jam-packed, the fish cleaning stations are jam-packed, and we were trying to tell them, hey guys, let's spread this out. Everything eats alewives. Let's not just pick on the king salmon. Let's go to cohos and lake trout and brown trout and so forth to kind of even that out a little bit. And that's how the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative was brought together. And we've been very successful with that. A couple years later, they stopped cutting the king so much and went on to other species. And now it's been a very balanced. We're actually going up with our numbers, and the kings are leading the way on those numbers. So we're trying to work with the DNR. We're trying to work with other fishing groups on maximizing the opportunity for people to go out on the Great Lakes and catch salmon.
So are there local chapters of your group, or is there a Michigan chapter of a Michigan organization statewide?
It's a Michigan organization statewide. Just recently, we brought on a board member from Indiana and he is starting an Indiana group. We've had 2 meetings down in Indiana where that's the first time they've ever had meetings like that with their biologists, their hatchery crew. So we brought in a bunch of interested fishermen into a meeting, start getting some information on the resource and so forth. We've had parts of our group in Indiana that have gone in, helped the hatchery crew down there, actually help them plant fish at night to try to get away from avian predation and so forth. So I think we're doing pretty good down there. And then again, Michigan is where we started, and it's just a statewide. There isn't like a Holland chapter,
right.
Detroit chapter.
Still a salmon-based group, or you guys branched out into walleye and trout or whatever?
Well, we want a balanced fishery. Trout are part of that fishery, steelhead browns, lake trout. Walleye fishing is a big part of the Great Lakes fishing, right? And it's guys that are going out, especially on Lake Huron, guys that are going out for salmon and are catching walleye in that bag. And if we can help promote any other type of fishing, we're all about it. But we started and we're mostly centered on making sure that we maximize those opportunities for salmon for anybody that wants them in Michigan.
Gotcha, Tom. Congrats
and
to you.
And the other lakes, too.
Yeah. Congrats to you and Ed Blissick for being so effective at the MUCC convention that gets rid of one big hurdle. And just a side note, will I see you at Walleye for Warriors out of Linwood Beach this summer?
You will definitely see me. Looking forward to seeing you.
I will look forward to that, Tom. Tom Andrus of the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative, glsalmon.org. That's glsalmon.org. If you are a member of a local sportsman's group and you want to support this effort to increase trolling rods and raise some money, hopefully for cormorant control, reach out to these folks, glsalmon.org. That's glsalmon.org. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Bob Miller of Rolling Bones Outdoors talking about how you might go out of state hunting this fall or maybe next fall. That's coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. You can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM and north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW 1400 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. This week's question comes from Steve Seidel. He sent me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. He says, "Hi, Mike. Like you, I love our great state of Michigan, but I've been thinking about going on an out-of-state hunt. I've never done this before, and I'm a little nervous. Plus, I don't have a bunch of money to spend. Where do I start? Who should I deal with? Should I reach out directly to an outfitter? And how do I know if somebody's legit? I hear horror stories about people booking trips and they didn't get what they expected." Well, I have some thoughts on this, but I thought, you know what? Let's bring in a guy who's a real expert on this. His name is Bob Miller with Rolling Bones. Rollingbones.com is his website, and he has a service that can help you book these out-of-state hunts. Bob, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing real good. So tell me what you have to offer here.
Well, what we got is what Rolling Bones is it's where adventure begins. And what that means is we offer a service like no other. Basically, we deal with applications, and we deal with applications in all 50 states. We are the only company. We have over 1,200 outfitters at our disposal, and they're all fully vetted. We are the only company that tailors to the blue-collar person. We do layaway program, so 25% down to get you booked. You can book out for up to 3 years in advance and you pick a date, you pick a payment, and then the rest is on you. It's a service like no other.
So why should Steve or anybody come to you? Why not just go out and do it ourselves? Because we could do it ourselves, right?
Yeah, you could, but then there's a possibility. Our slogan is we don't want you to get Googled. What that means is we don't, people pay to be on Google and be on the top of the website, right? We don't want you to do that. Our outfitters are fully vetted. When you buy a membership with us, you are buying for a fully vetted experience. You're buying a fully concierge service. You are buying the full support. You can go to Google, type in an outfitter, go to it, book your hunt. You have no idea. They can tell you whatever you want. Us having people that have been there and vetted this outfitter, we will tell you the exact experience, from how many days, what you're looking for, what kind of physical activity is it, what kind of lodging it is, what kind of everything that goes with the hunt. It is a full concierge service.
So it's a membership setup.
Yep, it is. We have 3 different memberships, but basically most people, when you want to go on an adventure, so for $150 a year, we'll get you all 50 states. What that means is we can apply. Okay, you want to go on an elk hunt. Where do you go? Where do you start? What do you do? Well, it depends on your budget, depends on how many points you have. If you don't have any points, we're going to start collecting them points for you, right? So we can build your personal dashboard. It's a heat map dashboard like no other. We can start collecting your points in all these different states. We can get you on a hunt plan. We build these for you, and then we can get you drawing tags every single year.
So are you convinced your odds of getting an out-of-state tag are better through you guys?
Slightly better. The only reason being is because we have a bigger pool to work with. So what we do is, like with party applications, we can put you in with other people that are in our membership program. So obviously we have people from all 50 states. So what we do is we piggyback off other people. So if we have certain people that want to draw a Unit 81 Wyoming tag and you only have, say, 3 points and it's a 7-point unit, but we have customers that have 9 or 10 or 11 points, we piggyback you guys off of each other. Even though you're not hunting together, we'll apply you with that person as a party so that you have the amount or rate of points to draw.
What kind of hunts are we talking here, Bob? What species?
We have 1,200 vetted outfitters worldwide with over 40 different species. So basically anything in the world that you want to hunt, we have.
All right, so if I go to your website, rollingbones.com, how does this work? Do I put in the information about what I'm looking for? Do I have to sign up to get a membership first, or what?
Well, what you would do is you would call. You can call Rolling Bones. You can call me directly. So Rolling Bones is the office in Spearfish. I am an adventure consultant. I am in Michigan. I'm the first one bringing it to Michigan, the Bay City area. So what you can do is you can get a hold of them, and they can kind of break things down for you. You can get a hold of me, and then I can tell you everything that you want to know. Everything is behind a secure wall. But I will show you everything. I like to sit down with you. I like to talk over everything with you, whether it's myself, whether it's with the main office. And then I will show you exactly how our membership works. I will show you your personal dashboards, your hunt plans, our AI software that matches you, the hunter, to the hunt based off the criteria that you want. And then we can go from there.
I do find it interesting and refreshing. One of the first things you said was this is a working man's budget, because some of these hunts can be very, very expensive.
That's correct. Our hunt, not our hunts, but if you look at hunting as a culture in the last 20 years, every 3 years it's going up at least 10%. So for an example, if you look at an elk hunt from 2004, it was about $1,250 fully guided. That same outfit right now is on average $8,500. So what happens with our software, or not our software, but what happens with us is when you book a hunt, you lock in that price, right? So let's just say it's a $6,000 elk hunt. You put 25% down. And then, like I said, you can make payments how you want, but it secures your spot, it secures your price up to 3 years in advance. So you can start making payments however you see fit. You can use our monthly help program, which is Hunter Expedition Laylay, or you can book the hunt and then not pay until you go see the outfitter in 3 years. It's however fits your budget. That's why we design this,
Well, Bob, it's an interesting option. I appreciate you coming on board to let us know what it's about. Rollingbones.com is the website, rollingbones.com. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
All right, Bob Miller here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. And thank you to Steve Seidel for sending this week's Ask Avery question. And, of course, thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. By the way, speaking of hunting out of state, we will be down in Ohio hunting with Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters the third week in October. A pre-rut whitetail hunt. If you want to learn more, reach out to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, or go directly to OhioBowHuntingOutfitters.com. Hour 2 coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I do believe, if you can, the best way to listen to this show is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM station. I mean, after all, this is, in a world of podcasting, this is a radio show, and the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local radio station. But if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show that is available? Now, where can you hear that podcast? You can go to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page, Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, now called X, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Odyssey, and even YouTube. But it's nice to have that option out there, right? Podcasting is such a big, and it's so confusing for people. I hear from people every week, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole again, but, you know, oh, I heard your podcast. Oh, really? Well, where'd you listen to it? Oh, I heard it on WSGW. Well, that's not a podcast. That was a radio show. Anyway, I digress. I do like podcasting, though. In fact, each month I do podcasts for some of my broadcast or my advertising partners, including Offshore Tackle and Primal Outdoors. The last Primal Outdoors podcast we did featured Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods. Bill is a buyer for the hunting department at Jay's, and we were talking about hunting and hunting opportunities, and we got thinking back and forth. And, well, anyway, coming up in April, there's going to be a big push at Jay's, and we're going to give you a promo code, and you can save a bunch of money on those Wraith blinds, those Primal Wraith blinds that I love so much. That's going to be online at jayssportinggoods.com and also in the stores. So keep an ear out for that. If you heard the beginning of the show when Ken Hunter was talking about the different partners that I work with, and I do call them partners. They're not sponsors. They're partners. Jay's Sporting Goods is the first name that you heard. Why is that? Well, for a lot of reasons. But Jay's was the first company that I ever dealt with. When I went out on my own, it was the Poet family at Jay's Sporting Goods who says, you can do this. They gave me the confidence, they assured me, and they also said, we will help you do this. And for that reason and many more, I have much loyalty to the Poet family and Jay's Sporting Goods. The guy running the place these days, his name is Jeff Poet. Now, his dad was Jay Poet, Jay of Jay's Sporting Goods. These days, a lot of different generations are working in the store, and they continue to come up with pretty cool things. If you have been at Jay's in Clare lately, you said, what's going on there? I asked the same question, so I thought, let's go right to the top. Let's get the guy at the helm these days, Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods, on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. And here he is. Jeff, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me on today.
Always a pleasure, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I am doing absolutely wonderful.
I keep expecting to hear the word that Jeff is going to retire and just spend all of his days running across the country doing different hunts.
Boy, I would like to do that. And I might slow down. I don't know the word retire. I'd have to look at the definition of that.
You know what? I'm with you, Jeff. It's like when you're doing something that you love, when God has blessed you and allowed you to do something that you still enjoy, why would you walk away from it?
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And I still love doing what I do. I mean, there's some things that, work is work, but I enjoy getting up every day and still doing what I do. So.
Well, the first question I have for you is, what's going on up there right now? I see something in the works. What is that?
Well, we've had a project kind of across our parking lot that's been going on for a couple of years, and we're getting really close to being able to unveil what we're doing up there. But it is pretty cool. It's called the Jays and Weber Wildlife and Education Center, and inside it's incredible. It's like I say, it's been 2 years in the making, and I think it's going to be worth the wait once we can open. We've got some technical occupancy things hurdles that we've got to overcome. So I don't have a date of when we're going to open, but we're close. I can tell you that we're close.
But so what is it? It's a classroom, a museum, exhibits, sales. What is it, Jeff?
Yeah, it's probably the closest thing. It would be like a museum, and it's got over 350 full-bodied mounted animals in their environment, North America, Africa, Asia, just from all over, and it's really cool. Again, these animals are featured in. So when you're standing in front of something and you're looking at it, it'd be like you're standing right there in Africa. It's got all the vegetation is correct, the animals are right. You could be in North America, at the base of the Teton Mountains, and you're gonna, there's elk and bison, and it's really cool, Mike. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Where did all these mounts come from?
Well, it's a long story that we don't have enough time today, but maybe that'll be a follow-up. There was a gentleman, Wayne Weber, actually harvested all of these, and this whole thing was kind of in existence down in the Macomb area in a warehouse type setting, and he was getting near the end of his life and wanted to make sure that he could share this with everybody that he could possibly share it with, and I think it's going to be a huge hit for youth, people that are studying animals, and just the enjoyment of hunters and anglers to be able to come in and take a look at what's there. And so we've transformed that into over a 16,000-foot building with super high walls, and you just feel like you're in that environment. But Wayne is the one that has that's really put this thing on. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, so he didn't get to see it to the end, but he is trusting us to see it forward and educate the public. A lot of it is him and I had some time to talk while he was alive, and we hit on a lot of cylinders since I was on the Wildlife Council, and understanding the funding message and the contributions that hunters and anglers make is understated, and federal excise tax that's paid by manufacturers is understated. And I think this venue will also help us deliver that message in a very positive way to people that just they didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, and we're going to try and change that.
Oh, I can see this as a destination, though, for school kids and field trips and families. It just sounds really cool.
Absolutely. Homeschool, I think, is going to be a big one. They're going to be able to see stuff there. But yeah, the grade classes, we're anticipating all of that, Mike.
Well, listen, you touched on something I want to follow up on. We got a couple minutes before the break here, and if we run out of time, we can continue on. But you talked about the Wildlife Council, Michigan Wildlife Council, the group that I work with. I'm in strong support of them. I think they're doing a wonderful job in, again, getting the message out about the importance of hunters and anglers in our funds and our resources and what we do. Do you think as a society, Jeff, are we farther away from being in touch with that than we were maybe when you and I were growing up?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt, because there's less of us. I think we're a smaller percentage. But even then, when we were growing up, I didn't see the impact, or I didn't understand the impact that hunters and anglers had from a financial standpoint. I mean, nobody was kind of telling me, oh yeah, your hunting license, funds this, and that bow or that gun that you bought, that 12% of that is going to help purchase property or maintain shooting ranges, or, whatever the case was. But I do know there's fewer of us as a percentage in society today. And it's important. It's more important because of that we get that message out.
Well, you guys there at Jay's would certainly have a direct handle on how many of us are still out there. I don't want to get into your personal business, but what is the sporting goods the business world of that look like these days? I mean, COVID was strong, that little post-COVID bump we got. How is it now, Jeff?
Mm-hmm. I think we've retained, from what I can tell in the numbers and the data, I think we've retained a good percentage of those that during COVID decided to, pick up a rod and reel or pick up a firearm and engage, since it was one of the things they were encouraging to do. The business is good. It cycles sometimes with the economy, unfortunately. And this last winter, if you had a rod and reel and you were planning on doing some ice fishing, it was difficult. So, those things can be speed bumps, but I think overall, we're strong and looking forward to this coming fall, this summer and fall. Absolutely.
We're talking with Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods, jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. Jay's is an interesting, it's an American success story. It's the story of a guy who had a dream and he was able to make it happen. Now his family is involved in maintaining that dream, and they're sharing that with the rest of us. I think it's very cool. jaysportinggoods.com, jaysportinggoods.com. Check out, if you would, go to YouTube and find the video on the Jay's Anniversary podcast, where I sat down with key folks in the Poet family and just listened to them tell the story about how Jay's was started. It's a very moving and a very cool story. I would encourage you to check that out. We'll take a break. When we come back, more with Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. I can't say enough about Linwood Beach. First of all, great people. The people who work there are very dedicated, hardworking people. They're friendly people, and they want to help you. They want to help you with your boating needs. They want to help you with your fishing needs. They want to help you with your camping needs. They have a beautiful marina right there on the shore of Saginaw Bay. You can fish walleye right in front of the marina, walleye and more. Beautiful campground, ship store, full marine service. My angler quest is shrink wrapped at Linwood Beach right now, just waiting for me to pull the trigger and say, all right, guys, time to go. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com. By the way, Linwood Beach will be the site of the Walleye for Warriors event again this summer in June. There are still openings for boat captains. If you want to take a veteran out on Saginaw Bay, which is a lot of fun, I've done it many, many times. I will be involved again this year. Go to the website, walleyesforwarriors.org. That's walleyesforwarriors.org to sign up to be a boat captain. You do not have to be a licensed charter captain to be a boat captain for Walleye for Warriors. Walleyesforwarriors.com and, of course, linwoodbeachmarina.com. Hey, while you're out there poking around online, please go to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and be sure to go over to this website, jaysportinggoods.com. Jaysportinggoods.com is, of course, the website of Michigan-based, family-owned outdoor superstore, Jay's Sporting Goods. The company was started by Jay Poet, who is the father of Jeff Poet. Jeff's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jeff, I know we've talked about this before, but can we talk about the history of the store? How did your dad, Jay, how did this all start?
Sure, Mike. It's always a good story to tell, and I enjoy doing it. Just did a slideshow presentation to a group to kind of explain the history of Jay's, and I always get, excited being able to talk about it. My dad, he kind of got started kind of wheeling and dealing type of guy, worked at Dow Corning for a number of years, and and kind of started in the parking lot there with guns and stuff, which you can't do
Yeah,
today.
can't do that.
Back then you could. You could back then. We need to make a note of that. But so anyway, he transitioned, and at some point, he decided, him and my mom decided to kind of, we lived in a residential area, to button up the garage that was right next to the house. And he put some gun racks in and some shelving and sold guns and ammo and scopes and reloading equipment, and kind of made the breakaway. It was a big deal for them, to give up a lot of security working for Corning. And my mom was working at a Rexall drugstore downtown. So she continued to work there, and then she kind of did the books and helps my dad, and things kind of grew, and they just kind of took off. And in a residential area, it was kind of tough, and some of the neighbors started squawking with all the parking going on, so they decided to build a building a couple of blocks over on old US 10 coming into Clare from the east there. And that happened in 1974, and it was an 8,600 foot square building, and oh my gosh, it was huge. So at that point, when we transitioned from the garage to we call the blue building, we got into Gen Sporting Goods, and basically the categories that we still carry today. Hunt, fish, and camp, I call it, to kind of simplify it a little bit. But and then it just continued to blossom, and we outgrew that. Again, outgrew the parking, became an issue up and down the street. We had 14 spots out front.
14.
It was undersized. It was undersized. And in the beginning, it was a gravel parking lot in town, so that kind of dates it a little bit. So anyway, then we moved out north of Clare in 1988. Again, went from 8,600 square feet to 36,000 square feet, and just trying to fill something with that, and the capital investment, and we had to take out loans to do it. Again, another huge gamble. My dad was, he was about taking risk, and he did, and it worked out. Other than he got sick during that move and ended up had cancer, and only got to work in that for a short period of time. We opened in July of '88, and he passed in March of '89. And then it was just me and JJ and my mom, the three of us, and we've kind of forged forward, and we've done several expansions and added Gaylord in 2000, and here we are today.
When your dad and mom decided to move north of town, I mean, we look at it now and go, well, of course. But back then, that was a risk. That was a gamble, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. There was like the Marathon and the McDonald's at that exit. I mean, it wasn't what it is today that pull people off from the road. Plus, we were a mile north. You couldn't see our building. The people downtown were saying, Jay, you're not going to make it out there. You're too far. You're right here in town. You got to stay in town. And Dad said, there's not enough space in town here for me. I got to do this. He said, people will follow me. And they did.
He was a real visionary, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. Even today, as I look back and I tell the story and I try and put myself in his shoes, making those decisions and how he could see the future, still amazes me, and I admire him. Obviously, he's my father and might be a little bit biased, but he was quite a guy.
Well, so you're the guy calling the shots these days, Jeff. I mean, where is Jay's going? I ask you this every time, and every time you give me the same answer, but I'm obligated, right? Are we going to see another Jay's Sporting Goods retail store somewhere? I mean, people want you. Every store that has an abandoned Kmart, every city that has an abandoned Kmart wants Jay's Sporting Goods.
Oh, that's true, Mike, but I'm in my 60s now, and like you had said, there's multiple generations, and on any given day, there can be 4 generations working in our operation. It's amazing. So I want it not to be totally my, call and decision and forging forward. I want to involve those younger people that are in our family that they're sharp. They've got some of the genes, and so I think, and to be successful, I think they have to be part of the decision making now. So I'm not going to give you an answer. I always avoid it, but it's always on the table. I can tell you that.
Oh, man. So listen, what does it take to not only survive in a family business for more than half a century, but thrive, especially in a business as competitive as sporting goods? Because I look at the big national guys, right? We know the names out there. You've got to deal with them. You've got the little mom and pop shops. What's the niche of Jay's? How have you been able to do this so well for so long?
It's pretty simple, Mike. You just take care of your customers. You care about them. You get what they need. You have it when they need it, and you'll be successful.
Well,
and we do a good job at all that.
I was going to say, when you say it that way, it sounds pretty simple.
It is simple. And, the people we hire and we talk about customer service and all the things that you got to do, it boils down. It's really simple. We care about our customers. When they come in, we want to make them as much of the family as we possibly can. Employees are the same way. You just got to care about people in our business. If you're in retail or any business, really, if you care, and that's what we look for when we hire. We can teach a lot of things. It always is benefits when we are looking for employees, but if you can care about people, that's where it all starts. And we talk about that a lot in a lot of our meetings. And, we're not perfect. We come up short, but we continue to work on it because we know how important that is.
Well, and you've got people who have been with you for a long, long time, which in the retail world is kind of unusual.
Yeah, since we've been around for over 50 years, we've had several that have retired. We've got a lot of them. They're celebrating 35-year anniversaries now that are still working, they're looking at the end of the finish line here with Jay's. And so we have some longevity that you're able to carry a lot of that message forward. It's important. You can't forget about your history. You got to look to the future, and you got to understand it's changing, but so much of it's foundational that where you come from. So we're in a good position.
And speaking of people who are still around, I still see your mom in the store.
Well, that's why I say there can be 4 generations any day. She still comes in like 5 days a week. They're not full 8-hour days, and I'm not sure what she does. It's okay.
She does whatever she wants.
That's right. That is what she does, and it's part of who she is, and it's just so embedded in her. I don't see that slowing down much, to be honest with you. I don't want to give her age away, but she's over 80.
I've heard her call it. She says she describes herself as, "I'm employee number 1. That's my employee number 1."
She likes that. She likes that. Yeah.
So what do you do, Jeff, in your spare time? I know you're not much of a fisherman, I don't think, but I know you're a hardcore hunter. Any big adventures coming up on your calendar?
My son and I are going to Mexico. He does not have a Gould's turkey, and so we've got that coming up this April. That's a big one, and so there is also an animal we don't have of those 350 in that wildlife center, muskox, and so Chad and I are looking at Greenland. That's what I mean by slowing down. Yeah. I know I'm going to be out of the store for a while, and I can force a little of that to happen. So that's going to be an adventure. I look forward to it.
Man, that'd be so cool. Speaking of Chad, is Chad's giraffe going to be across the parking lot there?
No, because it's just the head mount. But we do have a full mounted giraffe, and it's big in the center.
Well,
we have an elephant. Like, there's not many elephants in North America. There are full size that looks like it could step right out of the Serengeti.
Well, when it's time to open this up officially, will you please let me know so we can let folks know about it?
Absolutely will.
All right.
Absolutely.
Jeff Poet, my friend, always a pleasure to talk with you. I appreciate your business partnership over the years. I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate the Poet family and Jay's in general. So you're always welcome here on this show. Thank you, Mike. Jeff Poet of Jay's Sporting Goods, jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. I can't wait to see this new, I'm calling it, a wildlife education center? Very, very cool. jaysportinggoods.com. Check out their store in Clare. It's a mile north of town, but you know that by now. And then also in Gaylord, and maybe coming to an abandoned Kmart somewhere near you as well. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we're going to talk with Paul Rogers of the DNR. It looks like it's going to be an early wildfire season. We'll talk with him about that and more right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including the Twister 92.1 WTWS out of Houghton Lake. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. It's getting to be that time, isn't it? Time to start thinking about your food plots. Certainly time to start planning your food plots and move in that direction. I recommend Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. Rich Grzan does a wonderful job. He's there to help you. He wants you to reach out to him. Go to the website killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com to learn about the services they offer, the seeds they offer, the blends they offer. And I will also get Rich back on the show here in the next couple of weeks to talk about this early springtime food plot planting season. And it does look like it's going to be early this year. You know what else looks like it's going to be early? The wildfire season here in Michigan. I mean, didn't get much snow across much of the state. It's gone early. So what does that lead to? Well, Paul Rogers is with the Michigan DNR and wants to talk more about that. Paul, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great, Mike. Thank you.
So tell me, what is the concern this year? It's going to be an early season?
Yeah, we've already had numerous wildfires across the state. They've been kept fairly small this time. Most of them are below 20 acres, but we are running about 3 weeks ahead of schedule. And the other big change, we've seen it a couple of years here and there, but the fact that everybody's lost all their snow already. I mean, I was in Marquette last week and there was very little left up there. So we are experiencing fires already in the lower peninsula and in the upper peninsula both.
Paul, how do these fires start, most of them?
By far, over 80% of them are people doing debris burning, where they go up to their cabins in the spring and they pile brush and then it escapes. That's the largest cause of our fires.
So people.
Yes. Yep. That's the majority of the causes, human-caused fires. And of those, debris burning is the largest reason. So that's why, especially this time of year, you see all the dead grass. It's everywhere. We're coming out of winter. Again, you talked about we did not have a lot of snow. When we do get a lot of snow, that really packs those grasses down, so it takes longer for them to dry out. But across most of the state, we did not get our normal snowpack, so a lot of those grasses are standing upright. The wind can blow them through them easily, and they start burning quickly, and it can really carry the fire quickly.
Well, and of course, we should be concerned. We don't want to do damage to the environment, but there's also a legal responsibility. If you start a fire, you're responsible for the costs of that fire, right?
That is correct. Yep. There's the cost of responsibility for us, and it also could be the local township. But we do bill for suppression. Sometimes we do. It depends on the circumstances, but that is a possibility. You could be charged not only for the suppression costs, you could get a ticket allowing your fire to escape because that's unlawful. So it's easily preventable, but it is something you can be charged for, yes.
Paul, you say easily preventable. What do you want us to keep in mind?
The biggest thing we see this time of year is people, obviously you're anxious, just like everybody else is, to get out there. You want to clean your yard up, and they don't take a lot of time to get their water set up ahead of time. Even a 5-gallon bucket is a huge help. That once that fire starts to escape, you can douse it with some water. If you're at your cabin, make sure your well's hooked up, it's running, you got hoses laid out ahead of time, because invariably, of course, one of the first things we put away in the fall is the hoses, and they're buried way back in the back of the barn. So make sure all that is set up ahead of time and you're ready to go, and clean anything away from where you are burning. It also helps you if you can burn in the evening. That way the wind is very light and the humidity is up, and that's if we are allowing to burn, which right now almost all burn permits are shut off across the state, that's the better time to burn is in the evening once we're allowing burning.
Okay, when you talk about burn permits and them being shut down, does that mean no burning? Even on your own property, you can't burn?
That's correct. It's outdoor fires. You can still have a campfire, something like that, but the burn permits that we the burn permits that we administer are basically from Muskegon County across to Saginaw and then north. Everything south of that is administered by local fire departments. So always check if you're in southern Michigan with your local fire department or township to see if they're authorizing burning. And with us, the burn permits are to the north. And you can still, like I said, you can still have a campfire or a warming fire. That's permitted, but it's outdoor brush pile burning is what is currently not being allowed.
Gotcha. You know, the fact that campfires are allowed makes me think, well, the campfires aren't much of a problem, much of a source for fires that get out of control.
Yeah, usually they're smaller. People have them in a ring, which is ideally the best way to do it, especially even if you're burning yard debris, yard waste, burn it in your fire ring if you at all can. That way the embers can't get out and they can't escape, and just burn it slowly over time and don't do a massive pile at one time. And always pay attention to it, always be right there, because one of the big things we hear, someone went in to get a glass of water, or they went in for lunch and they came back out and their whole field was on fire. So.
Hey, Paul, I've got more questions for you. Can you hang tight after the break? I'd like to talk more about, wildfires, how the fact that they can burn under the ground, and even the fact that later on in the spring you guys will use fire as a good source. Do you have a few more minutes for me?
Absolutely.
All right, I appreciate that. Paul Rogers of the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. As Paul says, check on burning permits. If you're in the north part of the state, that's a DNR thing. The southern part of the state, it's a local department. But don't want to get in trouble. Don't want to get something out of control. Don't want to cause damage. Easy to do if you're not paying attention. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Matt Smith, Outdoors Realtor. Matt, a longtime friend of mine, he's a good guy. He's an expert at finding recreational properties and vacation homes, and he can help your family turn a dream into a reality. Learn more online at Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. And by the way, if you're looking for a new home as your primary residence, Matt can help you out there as well. That's Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. Talking right now with Paul Rogers of the DNR. Paul, so are you with the Forestry Division, or is there a separate and specific fire division of some type?
We're actually incorporated into the Forestry Division, and we're Resource Protection is what we're actually called, but we are the fire section.
Gotcha.
There's a designated section for us. So,
in an average spring, if there is such a thing anymore, how many fires would you guys address across the state?
Normally, obviously it varies a lot from year to year, but on average, we respond to 300 to 400 calls per year. And we work in conjunction. A lot of the southern peninsula is handled by the local fire departments because you don't have the vast expanse of forestry land, and a lot of ag is built in. We're down here to help them, and we certainly do when it's needed. But down here, a lot of our main focus is on prescribed burning. But in the north, we almost always respond with fire departments and handle them all in the North Country.
Every once in a while, you'll hear every few years about a fire that just absolutely gets out of control. What is that like? When you roll up on a scene like that, it's got to be, I don't know, at least the first few times, it's got to be a little overwhelming, isn't it?
Oh, sure. We had a large one last year. It was 2,500 acres in the Grayling unit, and the burn window was about 10 hours. It was almost jumping I-75. We actually had some spots where it went from one side to the other. So, it's a major, it's all hands on deck. Everybody's shifting. Everyone's moving. And we try and get around it as quickly as we can that night to get the flanks all controlled and get it tamped back so we can get a good line put around it for containment for the next couple of days to keep it in check.
So that's what it is. It's a containment thing. You try to keep it from growing bigger rather than try to... It's got to be twofold, right? You're trying to put out what's there, or you're only concerned about just keeping it from getting bigger?
Well, we try and control it. We start at the base where there's less fire activity. A lot, especially up in that Jack Pine area around Grayling, once these fires stand up and start running, you can't put anything in front of them. We use aircraft to help slow them down when we can. But mainly we get in the flanks and try and work from the bottom up towards what we call the head of the fire. And we wrap it in and build line in to keep it contained. And we have water units backing up the dozers. And then we get to the head. Usually the head will die down once you hit 9, 10 o'clock at night if the weather conditions are good. And then you can get around the fire. But once those big fire fronts start, they build their own wind and cause a lot of effects that it just, you can't put people in front of it.
And they burn right into the ground too, right?
Yes, especially, I'm glad you brought that up because we've been talking about this. We had some spring meetings with our staffs, and we're actually seeing drought conditions already because of the low snow loads in the UP, and it will burn into the soils. We're seeing moderate drought across almost all of the Upper Peninsula and actually some severe drought on the west end. There's a little bit of kind of some moderate drought up around the Cadillac and Manistee area, but almost all the whole UP is abnormally dry. And what happens is the organic materials don't have lose their moisture, and it's organic. It's decaying leaves and sticks and things like that, and the fire will burn right down into the soil layers.
How do you fight a fire like that?
It's just day after day. You go out early in the morning and you look for where the smoke is popping up, and then that's where it's burning down into the ground, and you just keep putting them out. You just keep going back day after day until they're out.
But fire isn't always bad. I mean, you guys use it for good purposes too.
Correct. And that's one thing I really want to make sure we mention to your listeners is we do so much habitat restoration with fire. It's been here for thousands and thousands of years, and we're steadily ramping up doing more and more prescribed burns every year. We got crews out today doing burns. So it's a very proactive effort on our part, and a lot of it is all for habitat restoration to benefit deer and turkey and grouse. It gives the grasses a huge flush of nutrients, especially in the oaks. It removes the understory, so then the young oaks can come up behind, and the maples are set back a little bit. So it's all for benefit, and we have a lot on the books this year, and they'll be seeing us doing quite a few burns in parks and state game areas and areas like that.
Well, Paul Rogers of the Michigan DNR, I appreciate your time. My wish for you is a very, very slow springtime fire season, but it's not looking like that's going to be the case. So good luck to you and your folks, and be safe, and we appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Paul Rogers, the Michigan DNR, michigan.gov/DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. I've been out a couple times watching these guys and gals do prescribed burns. That is pretty cool the way they do that. I have covered back when I was in news. I've covered some of the big fires up north. Of course, they won't let you get real close to them, but I've been as close as I want to be. And it's the idea of going in and fighting these things is, I don't know. I wouldn't want to do it. So I appreciate the folks who do. We will take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, let's talk a little turkey with Charlie Wiltse of Primal Outdoors. Let's talk a little bow hunting. Let's talk a little, I don't know. We'll see. Charlie's a good talker. Wherever he takes us, we'll be fine. And then we'll wrap it up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
4 decades? How can that be? That's like 40 years. I must have started when I was, 9 or 10 years old. Welcome, my friends, to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us. Getting to feel like springtime, isn't it? Boy, it was a weird winter. And I think we will probably pay for that in a lot of ways. But I'm looking forward to spring so much. One of the things I look forward to about springtime more than anything is turkey hunting. I've been bitten by the turkey bug, and I've got it bad. If you have not hunted turkeys, I would suggest you give it a try. You know, I've known some people who have turkey hunted and went, yeah, it's okay, but they don't have a passion for it. But most of the people I know who actually start turkey hunting fall in love with it, because the first time you hear a gobble, the first time you make a call and you get a bird to respond to you and they gobble, man, that's it. Now, you're not necessarily going to call that bird in, and you're not necessarily going to get a shot or even see the bird, but the fact that they reacted to you, I can't think of, maybe other than elk hunting, and I've never really had much experience with, but what else are you going to do in the outdoors that you can have a direct interaction with a critter like you can turkey hunting? It's a lot of fun. And this last week, the Michigan DNR announced their drawing results for the springtime tags. Now, don't worry if you didn't put in, no big deal, because more than likely in the area you are hunting, you'll just be able to buy a tag over the counter. If you want to hunt turkeys in Michigan these days, you can. It's unlike the old days when it was kind of hard to get a tag. Now, there is concern that turkey numbers across the state are down, but turkey numbers across the country are down. A lot of experts trying to figure out exactly what's going on. But there are still, believe me, plenty of birds out there, and there will be plenty of birds shot this spring, and there will be plenty of people out there in the woods having a lot of good times. One of them will be Charlie Wiltse. You've heard Charlie here on the show before. We've also had him on the Primal podcast. He's a Primal Outdoors pro staffer. He's a hardcore hunter, and he's always welcome here on this show, and he's agreed to give us a few minutes once again this week. Charlie, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Mike. Great to be here.
Always a pleasure. Now, last time we talked, you were telling this exotic adventure of cat hunting, mountain hunting out west, and now we flip it around and we bring it back to hunting these mundane birds right here in our great state of Michigan. Kind of interesting, but you got your fingers in all types of hunting, don't you?
Yeah, I sure do. Yeah, I'm really blessed. Yeah, we had a really good talk about that. My mountain lion hunt in central Wyoming, that was in December. And now it's time to get geared up for our spring turkey hunting. And what you said there, you're spot on. I've got the itch. Turkey hunting's in my blood, and it's just getting stronger each year.
Is it it's not too early to start thinking about turkey hunting. It never is. But is it too early to be scouting? Is there anything we can do concrete to increase our odds now of getting a bird?
Absolutely, Mike. It's never too early to scout, but right now, we're looking, we're just, we've got a little over a month yet to the Michigan opener, April 20th. The more you can get out there and scout, the better. I mean, right now, a lot of turkeys, they're still really flocked up, but, there's no snow, so where are they going to be? They're looking for food, and they're going to be traveling from bed to feed. And if you can find that, that's going to continue to be the case right up to the opener.
Will you be chasing birds with a shotgun or a bow? I'm
going to do both. One of my goals is still to shoot a turkey out of the tree in a primal hang-on. Last year I was able to try a few times, wasn't able to make it happen, but this year I'm going to try that again. That'll be my first go at it with a bow out of the tree, and then I'll go back into a primal ground blind. But bow and arrow primarily. I'm fortunate that I'm going to be hunting in 4 or 5 different states for turkeys this spring, so I will be using a shotgun as well.
What's it like turkey hunting out of state compared to our birds here?
Well, there's a lot of similarity, Mike. Obviously trains are different. So my first out-of-state hunt will be the 13th of April in Kentucky. We got a lot more rolling terrain there. That, of course, comes into play. You can't see as far. But when it comes to the way the birds act, especially that early season, it's a lot similar to Michigan, even Ohio, Indiana. Basically, terrain's a little different, but the birds still pretty much act the same.
I want to go back to this bow hunting for birds out of a tree stand. I think a lot of people don't realize you can do that. It's a fairly recent opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was around 2019. Michigan allowed it, 2020. And I know not many people do it. And I'm really looking forward to, I'm hoping that this year it all comes together, because it's just awesome to be up in a tree stand in the springtime. And to be able to, fill a turkey tag from a tree stand with my bow, I'm really looking forward to it.
I think one reason more people don't hunt birds from a tree stand is you're locked into that position. You don't have the mobility. However, Charlie, one of my favorite tactics is to sit in one of those primal ground blinds. And it's the same thing there. I mean, you can get up and move, but you're kind of stationary. So maybe that's not a factor.
Yeah, you don't have the mobility as much, but if you think about it, we all know that turkey's vision is incredible. So you're up in the air. Typically the turkeys aren't going to be looking up in the trees. You're in a primal ground blind. You're covered, concealed. So you're definitely helping your odds that way.
That's what I was wondering, Charlie. Here in Michigan, deer will routinely look up because they know there's danger from tree stands. I got to believe turkeys don't do that because they haven't been hunted, but they are looking up in the air, for hawks and eagles and stuff. So I wonder about that.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to spend a lot of time in the spring, and I just love watching birds work. I love watching when just even a group of hens and they're feeding, and they're yelping and doing some clucks, and I try to pay attention to a lot of that stuff, Mike. And typically you don't see them look up a lot because I do pay attention to it, but they do. They definitely do. But you just don't see them doing it often.
Okay, I want to, again, go back to bow hunting for birds from a tree stand because I'm fascinated by this. Would you put decoys out in front of you and try to call them in, or are you going to set up on known travel routes, and ambush them like we would deer hunt?
I'm doing both. I'm doing both. I want to be over. My scouting's in place, so I'm going to set that tree stand up. If my scouting's really good and I know where that consistent roost is, I'm going to set back far enough. I know where the birds are dropping in the morning, and then typically they're hitting the ground and then taking that path towards where I'm going to have that stand set up. But I'll also put some decoys out because sometimes they'll kind of drift off a little bit from their natural pattern. I want them to be able to see. I want the toms to be able to see, what do we got over there, in case they're not really on that natural path with what my scouting has shown. So I will use a decoy also out of a tree stand.
Here's a question I always ask is, how far from a roost do you set up?
That's a good question. And a lot of that has to do with the terrain. I've had problems before where I've gotten too aggressive on the roost, and I've just completely boogered up the hunt. Getting in too close. Because again, now the birds, we know how good a vision they have, but now they're up in the air, so they really can see. Even when it's completely dark, you still got to be so careful. So I'll usually, depending upon the terrain, how thick of timber, where I'm at. But I'm gonna stay back far enough that I know I'm not taking that chance of boogering everything up that I worked so hard for that morning, and then birds basically just jumping down and going the opposite way that you are because they know something's not right.
Charlie, I had a crazy experience one time setting up too close to a roost, and I don't know how this happened. I don't know how I didn't bump these birds out of there going in the morning, but I didn't, and they weren't roosted exactly where I thought. I got too close. I was sitting on the ground, and they literally, when they flew down, they surrounded me. They flew down around me. Now, I couldn't move. I couldn't get a shot, but what a cool experience that was.
That was incredible. Well, I'd say Mike, you were pretty stealthy
I must
going
have
in
been.
there.
I must have been.
That's impressive. Very impressive.
I don't know about impressive, but it was maybe dumb luck, but it was a lot of fun. Hang tight, Charlie. A lot more things I want to talk to you about. We're talking with Charlie Wiltse of Primal Outdoors, primaloutdoors.com, primaloutdoors.com. As I am out there this spring, I will be using a primal blind. Will it be a wraith, the wraith that I love so much? Will it be a vision, or would it be one of the new blinds that I hope to have my hands on by springtime turkey season? I don't know which one it'll be, but I love springtime turkey hunting out of a ground blind with a bow, some decoys out in front of me. And in life, I'm not real patient, but when it comes to turkey hunting, I can wait them out. And I'll sit there, and I'll get out there at the break of daylight, but I might not see a bird until mid-morning, and that's okay, because what else am I going to be doing? Sitting there in a blind, listening to the woods, watching the woods. It's all good. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. You can hear us in Tawas, WIOS 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Sandusky, WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why would you buy a bunch of different sets of hunting clothes, right? Buy one good quality set and then snap on and zip on an outer shell so you can change your camo pattern. So it's versatile, right? Like all year round. And it takes literally a minute, no more than a minute to change your camo pattern. Paul Perrone came up with a great concept here. I applaud him for that. I also like VersaSkins because if you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, they can take care of you. And it's hard to find good quality hunting clothes in that size. Also, if you're a saddle hunter, VersaSkins makes jackets for that as well. And saddle hunting, of course, one of the hottest things out there. You're not going to see me buy into it. I'm too old and too set in my ways to try that, but I know a lot of the young folks are really embracing this whole saddle hunting concept. Well, if you do, VersaSkins has a jacket for you as well. The website, versaskins.com, that's versaskins.com. For me, if I'm going to be up a tree or up in the air or off the ground, it's going to be in a ladder stand. And honestly, it's going to be a primal ladder stand so I can take advantage of that jaw and truss system that actually locks onto the tree. I'm a big chicken. For a couple things. I told you earlier in the show, I don't like snakes. I'm afraid of snakes, even garter snakes. But I'm also afraid of heights. So for me to go up in the air, it's got to be a strong, solid ladder stand, and that jaw and truss system is what I like. Now, this spring for the turkey woods, unlike Charlie Wiltse, I will not be turkey hunting from a tree stand. I'll be on the ground, more like deer hunting, right? I will have decoys in front of me. I will likely call a little bit, but I will get the bird's temperature. Are they talkative that day? Then I might talk a little more. If they're not, then I won't. But I like to set up in a known travel area. So, Charlie, let's talk a little bit more about springtime turkey hunting. Let's break it down a little bit. You mentioned decoys. I put decoys in front of me. How important are decoys? What's your setup? How far out are they? And are you putting strutters? Are you putting jakes? Are you putting hens or what?
Okay. Yeah, decoys are important, and it all depends upon the temperature of the birds. And then, obviously doing early season scouting is going to help that. And then as the season goes on, you just got to pay attention to what the birds are doing. But typically that early season, what I have found to be the absolute best, I really like to try to find where those hens, obviously the travel corridors, but also where are they feeding? Where are the hens going to be feeding at? And when I find that, that's where my number one setup will be in that early season, when them toms, especially the mature toms, they're ready to go. They're saying, this is my territory, where's my girls? I like to set up a full strutter, and then at least one hen stand up, and then one hen in front of that full strutter, right on the ground. That is what I have found to be the absolute best for that early season. That that first week or so, that's really going to get those mature toms cranked up. And I have found that to be the absolute best to try to kill a mature tom that first week.
Now, you're talking about a hen right on the ground. You mean in a submissive pose, like she's ready?
She's ready.
Yeah.
Yep. Make sure that she's it's a like a laid down hen, so she's basically in the pose where she's ready. Correct.
So would you, if you don't kill a bird right away and you end up hunting 2 or 3 weeks, would your setup later in the season likely be different?
Yes, a lot different, and that is again trying to pay attention to the temperature of the birds, what you're seeing. But once you can tell that, especially the mature toms, couple-year-old toms, when they're starting to kind of break up more, things are getting a little bit harder to come about when it comes to hearing them from the roost. They're not as active. That's when you kind of want to really start looking into possibly like what I found best, and this is usually, that second, third week of the season, using a Jake with a half or quarter strut, and then paired with another, like a laid down hen, or even better, with a laid down hen and a stand up hen. So that's pretty much saying, because them times get to a point where after they just, they really don't want to fight. They're still looking for the girls, but the fighting is done. A lot of them are just wore out from it. So now all of a sudden they see this young boy Jake, like I said, kind of like a quarter half strut, and he's got a laid down hen with him. He's like, no, you're not going to be doing that in my property. So that's what I found is best after that first week, where those mature toms are just going crazy.
I actually used one of those semi-strut Jake decoys last spring for the first time. Holy cow. The longbeards could not resist that.
Yeah. I think ultimately, if you're a little nervous about using a full strut, because we all know, even that first week, that the full strut can make you or break you. Ultimately, if you would go with a Jake, half or quarter strut, with a hen down paired up with a hen standing up, I think that's probably the most ultimate setup.
I've also switched over, and this gets, it's a little more money, but using these extremely realistic looking decoys. Does that make a difference?
Oh, absolutely. I think it does. I definitely think it does. Even, just like the colors on the heads on some of them, and I know what you're talking about. You could be looking at $200, $250. But how often do we get to hunt? How often we get to hunt that prime time? It helps a lot, because sometimes, especially if you're hunting, over more fields, where them birds are going to be a ways away, you want them to be able to see you, and those newer decoys definitely help for sure.
How far out are you setting your decoys?
Okay, so it changes a little bit. If I'm bow hunting, I'm going to be probably around 12 to 15 yards. If I'm using a gun, I'm going to be typically 15 to 20, because I want to also be ready, because we all know what can happen quite often is, them toms will get hung up on you. So if they get hung up and they're, 5, 10 yards out, even 15, 20 yards out, if you got a shotgun, you're still going to be able to be in range, to make a good lethal kill.
What about calling? How important is that, Charlie?
Well, calling is important, and it's, again, kind of getting the temperature of the birds, the time of the season. You don't want to overcall. I know in my younger days, I thought, I need to be really, really loud, and my pitches would go high and low. And I think a lot of times what you're doing is you're just making them birds a little nervous about, something not sounding too right. So feel out the temperature of the birds, listen to their volumes. Don't get too crazy on them pitches, but a basic yelp, like a 3 to 7 note yelp, is a great call. I like to use a cluck. I'll do like a couple clucks, then I'll go right into a yelp. And then, of course, cutting and yelping is probably my favorite, because that's, to me, really indicating, Mike, that, you've got some hens that are trying to get some attention. and that cutting and yelping can really drive those toms just crazy.
I know what you mean about overcalling. When I first started turkey hunting, I know I overcalled. And I'll be honest with you, Charlie, sometimes I have to fight myself now not to overcall because it's so rewarding to make a call and have a bird respond. Even though you know that you should shut up, it's so cool.
Well, I know exactly what you're saying because, well, too, especially if you can't see that tom and he's responding back to you, if all of a sudden you're starting to feel like, well, you haven't heard him for a while, you're like, oh man, I'm going to lose him. I'm losing my opportunity. And you want to call, so you definitely just got to kind of go with how you're feeling. But the main thing is just don't start, going crazy with them calls, and there's so many good calls now. I really tell anybody, especially people getting into turkey hunting, a box call, a friction box call is just a great call to start with. And then I use from a box call to a slate call and mouth calls. I'll use all three. But the main thing is just don't get too over aggressive.
I think with all types of hunting, patience is important. But doggone it, something about turkey hunting, because those birds, they will drive you crazy, and when you get the days when they're not talking and they sneak in on you. I mean, how many days, Charlie, have you had a rough morning in the woods, and then you drive home, and on the way home you had to stop and let a longbeard cross in front of you? I mean, they're the most frustrating, stupid, ugly, lovable critter out there, I think.
I hear you. That happens to me every single spring. Obviously I'm very fortunate to do a lot of turkey hunting, but every single spring that happens. And, you have some people say, well, man, they're not very smart. They're coming right in my backyard. You see them walking across the road. Well, if you're a turkey hunter, you know that they can be very, very smart. And I know I had talked when we first started talking about turkey hunting, Mike, and one thing that I tell anybody that I talk to about turkey hunting is just because that first couple hours in the morning you don't harvest your bird, don't give up. You had mentioned a little bit earlier, springtime, it's an absolutely great time to be out in the field. That mid-morning, late morning, it can be very successful. And I'll tell you what, the last number of years, me and my friends, I love to get my friends out hunting, we've shot a lot of birds in the afternoon. Afternoon is a great time for those mature toms after maybe a morning they didn't get what they were looking for, and they're out cruising. And if you can be set up, have some decoys out, do some just on and off real light calling, afternoon is a great time to kill a mature bird.
Charlie, always a pleasure. I appreciate your knowledge and I appreciate your passion. I wish you a great season, and you and I will talk again soon for sure.
Sounds great, Mike. I always appreciate talking with you. You have a great day.
You as well. Charlie Wiltse, pro staffer for Primal Outdoors, the website primaloutdoors.com, primaloutdoors.com. I will be sitting in a primal ground blind this spring for sure, as I have for the last several springs. In fact, how many birds have I shot out of primals now? Primal's been a bit. It's been a few. And hopefully I'll add one more this spring. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. More coming up, and of course we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, who will be our special guest chef at Wednesday Night Live coming up on the 20th. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. On the other side of the state, St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw on News Radio 790 and 100.5. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, by now, for these 3 hours. This part of the building, I'm claiming it as mine. It's been an interesting day because I started, Charlie Rood's in here with me now. But for the first 2 hours, Jonathan Dent was in here with me. So the crowd that usually shows up in the parking lot, they didn't expect to see Charlie. So they didn't show up. So now Charlie's got to leave here in a few hours, and he's got to leave to an empty driveway. And just know, Charlie, that they'll be here for you next. Yeah, he's like, okay, I'm good. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. And it's time, isn't it? Listen, it hasn't been a rough winter, but it's time now to start thinking about spring. It's time to start thinking about improving your property, your lawn. The folks at Reader take care of my trees. I cut the grass, but, they're doing everything else. They've done a lot of landscape projects for us in the past, and I might have a couple more up my sleeve here, Paul Reader, coming up this spring. Let's talk about that. But if you want to work with true professionals who can truly take your property to the next level, it's nice to have a place to go up north, right? But you go up there and then you got all the maintenance and stuff. Listen, if you want to just stay home on the weekend and enjoy your backyard, or if you got property up north, I guess, get in touch with the folks at Reader, readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. Every Reader crew I've had to the house, and there have been several, have been good guys, hardworking people, and they've done a wonderful job, and I'm sure they will do the same for you. readerlandscaping.com. Okay, I got to talk about the fact that this Wednesday coming up, Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. Now, that is the 20th. We are basically sold out. However, Emil Rousseau of the Lumberjack says we can squeeze a few more people in. So if you'd like to join us, I'd love to have you. I hate to give out phone numbers, but I'm going to give one out. 989-343-0892. Again, 989-343-0892. 343-0892. That's the number to call to get reservations for the Lumberjack. Now, if you didn't jot that phone number down, just Google Lumberjack Restaurant West Branch and you can find it there. So call for reservations. There's no cost to attend. I'm not buying your dinner. You'll have to buy your own dinner, but the food is excellent at the Lumberjack, and this time around, a very special treat. Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar is our guest chef. So in addition to having the regular food on the Lumberjack menu, Dave is going to come up with a couple of dishes as well, and I might ask him what those are coming up after the break here. Also at this event, I've got some very good friends I'm bringing in. Brad Dupuis, Mr. Angler Quest. Nick DeShano of Offshore Tackle. Extreme long-range shooting expert Paul Phillips will be with us. Steve Wyndham of MUCC will be with us as well. We're going to give away some gifts, some products, some giveaways. I've got a real nice Rapid River knife that Chris Durson of Rapid River sent down to me. Nick DeShano's bringing in some offshore tackle products as well. Nick Grillo is giving us some Michigan brand meats as well as a Michigan brand ham for the holidays. The Taggart guys from Rec Broadheads are going to give me some, have sent me some Rec Broadheads to give away, and 2 Primal Vision blinds. Now, the Vision is the newer version of the Wraith. It's the same as the Wraith, but it's in a different camo pattern, and it has built-in brush loops. It's going to be a great event. We will go live at 7 o'clock, as we always do on Wednesday Night Live, to my social media platforms. If you can't join us in person, I would encourage you to join us online and check it out and see what the fuss is all about. But if you'd like to join us, again, 989-343-0892. This is, I think, the 4th Wednesday Night Live we have done at the Lumberjack. I love the Lumberjack. It is a Forward Corporation restaurant there in West Branch, and it just feels like up north. The food is great, easy to get on and off the freeway, and we're going to have some really good guests there, and I'm looking forward to this one a lot. Also need, as long as I'm doing the blatant self-promotion, my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to hear from you. If you have a question for the Ask Avery segment, that's the best way to get it to me. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Every day I have people reach out to me on the social media messaging platforms, and I try to respond. But there's so many of them out there, and it's just absolutely overwhelming. So unless you have my cell number and you could text me, the best way to get in touch with me, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I will certainly look forward to hearing from you. Send me your pictures. Tell me your story. Send me your questions. If you have a picture you'd like me to share, again, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And if you have a picture of a kid in the outdoors, a young person in the outdoors, whether it's hunting or fishing or shooting or trapping or camping or whatever, boating, whatever, a kid in the outdoors, send it to me. Use the hashtag #ForwardFuelsTradition. Forward Fuels Tradition. And each month we draw a winner from those hashtags, and you win a $50 gift card to the Forward convenience stores. Forward Fuels Tradition. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. Well, it's time. It's time to bring in the man himself. The man, the myth, the wild game cooking legend. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. David, welcome back. How you doing, buddy?
Really good, Michael. And yourself?
I'm doing great because I am so excited about the Wednesday Night Live coming up at the Lumberjack this week on Wednesday night at 7.
Me too. You're right. I got to go up one day early and check out the kitchen and talk to the chef up there and get everything straightened out, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll.
I bet it's going to feel good. In fact, great to get back in the kitchen.
It is. I've been looking forward to this. I'm glad you guys offered it for me.
Well, it was all ammo. I'd like to take credit for it, but I can't. But I certainly think it's a great job. And what do you have, Dave? It's my understanding we can order off the Lumberjack standard menu, or you're going to have two dishes of your own, right?
I'm going to do the walleye with blueberries and the shrimp scampi. According to your Wednesday Night Live before, that was the most requested recipes.
You're going to make a lot of people happy. So how about one of those recipes today, Dave?
Let's do the walleye with blueberries. So this would be for 4 portions. You're going to need about anywhere from 8 to 10 ounces of boneless, skinless filet per person, a couple of beaten up eggs, 2 to 3 ounces of blueberry schnapps, a jar of chicken gravy, a couple ounces of heavy cream, either fresh butter, or if you want to put a little teeny bit of garlic, you could use the garlic butter, a tablespoon of chopped parsley, about 3/4 of a pint of fresh blueberries, or frozen, you could use either, and you need either toasted almonds or pecan halves, a little bit of white pepper, a lime, a little bit of flour, and olive oil to saute. And this is on page 23 in the cookbook. Or you'll be able to sample it up to the lumberjack.
There you go, either way.
Right, okay, so you could dredge the fish in flour, then in the beaten up eggs, and in the hot saute pan with a small amount of olive oil, brown the fish on both sides, starting with skin side up, so when you turn it over, the rib side is facing the diner. Remove the fillets to a large oven-proof baking dish. Wipe the pan out with a little bit of a paper towel. And you can put the chicken gravy in, add the schnapps, and then add the peppers, the cream, the butter, and reduce that down by about half maybe. And then spoon this mixture over the fish and bake it uncovered maybe 10 minutes because it's going to be 3/4 of the way cooked through anyways by sauteing it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the fillets out and spoon the sauce over the fish on the plate, and then add the toasted almonds or the pecans and spread the blueberries around it. You don't want to overcook them blueberries. 2 to 3 minutes in the hot pan is all you want to do, because blueberries will have a tendency to fall apart and just mush right into the meal. And then you can serve this with your favorite pasta or steamed vegetables, or small boiled potatoes would go great with this. And it would top it off with the toasted almonds or the pecans, either one you prefer, and the blueberries. Sprinkle a little bit of parsley on top if you have it. If not, that's fine too. But this is one of the recipes we'll be doing for the lumberjack.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Again, that's on page 23 of the Dixie Dave Wild Game Cookbook. I will post this recipe online. And the shrimp scampi is wonderful. The walleye with blueberries is wonderful. I'm a little surprised people didn't request the walleye New Orleans, though.
Okay, I know that. I know I could make it for your wife if they got the stuff up there.
Don't do anything special, but I know that was probably your most requested fish dish when you were at the restaurant, wasn't it?
Yep. Walleye, New Orleans, or the blueberry walleye. Both of them went really, really well. People loved them.
Well, it's hard to argue with a walleye recipe for sure. David, I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the kitchen. This is so exciting. It's Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. We will go live at 7 o'clock, but I would encourage people to make their reservations for, 5:30, 6 or so to give us time to get things going, and I will look forward to seeing you there, buddy.
Well, thanks a lot, Michael. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
All right, Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, and I sure appreciate him joining us. And I sure appreciate the folks from the Forward Corporation, specifically Emil Rousseau, inviting Chef Dave Minar to join us. That's a big deal. If you would like to join us in person, once again, Emil says we are sold out. He said, but I can squeeze a few more people in. So I said, let's try to do that. Phone number, 989-343-0892. 343-0892. If you're not able to write that down, Google Lumberjack Restaurant, West Branch. The phone number is there. Make your reservations for, 5:30, 6, somewhere in there. And as I say, we will be going live at 7. Brad Dupuis is going to be there. Mr. AnglerQuest, Nick DeShano of Offshore Tackle, extreme long-range shooting expert Paul Phillips, Steve Wyndham of MUCC, giving away a lot of products. It's going to be a lot of fun. I look to have you there. Also, some Michigan brand products too, right? If you can't join us, that's okay. But make sure you check it out online. That'll be on my Facebook page, on YouTube, on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, on LinkedIn, all over the place. So it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, my friends, I appreciate you joining me this week here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. My name is Mike Avery, the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, the email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I want to hear from you. Let me know what you're thinking, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and I will talk with you next time, right?